Hello, gentlemen. Welcome back. This is the second video on solving trig equations. We're going to go through a couple without a calculator, and then I'm going to show you some techniques to use to solve them with a calculator. I think that hopefully you're getting the hang of it, and we just got to keep doing some practice. So let's get started. Oh, that's not where I want to go. Let's go up here. I want to find all the solutions of the equation on the interval of 0 to 2 pi. Okay, so if I'm looking here, I should notice right off the bat that I should be able to factor that, and I can. And what we should see is we can break it up to secant x minus 1 times secant x minus 2. Now here's a general graph of this equation of secant x squared, secant squared x minus 3x plus 2. I narrowed it down to sort of look and find those zeros. And so it looks like we have potentially a 0 in this general area, one right here, and potentially out here again, but we're only on to 0 to 2 pi. So we have to check and see what's happening on this side. If these two things multiplied together equals 0, that means one of them has to be equal to 0. So secant x is equal to 1 or secant x is equal to 2 must be satisfied in order to satisfy that equation. If we look at that, secant x equal 1 means cosine of x is equal to 1, because remember that secant x is 1 over cosine. So if I have 1 over cosine x is equal to 2, that's how I got to that step down there. Okay, and so let's look at this side over here. Secant x is equal to cosine x is equal to 1. That means x is equal to 0. It also is at 2 pi, but this is an open interval, so 2 pi is not on the interval that I'm looking for a solution. So here I'm just going to get 0, so that's a 0 right in there. Cosine x is equal to a half. That's going to give me two values on this interval. One's going to be pi over 3, and the other is going to be 2 pi over 3, or 5 pi over 3, I'm sorry, in the fourth quadrant. Okay, so there are my zeros. I got 1 there, that's 0. This is pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3. Okay? Secant x plus tan x is equal to 1. And nothing's jumping out here at me to start, but so if that happens, I'm going to go to sines and cosines. Let's combine. I have a common denominator here. Let's see if that's going to help us at all. If I do that, what I did is I just multiplied through by cosine of x. All right, and I get 1 plus sine x equals cosine x. Again, without my calculator, this isn't nothing's jumping out at me right away. So one of the things I'm going to try to do is use some of my Pythagorean identities. And so what I would need to do is square both sides. Again, just another technique. But because we're squaring both sides, we're going to have to check our solutions and see if we add in extraneous solutions. So we have to double check all our solutions at the end. If I do that, if I square both sides, I get 1 plus 2 sine x plus sine squared of x equals cosine squared of x. And let's keep manipulating here. Let's bring this term to the other side, so I'm setting it equal to 0. And I notice something right there. I note that that is equal to sine squared x. And so what I did was I replaced this term right here with sine squared, like that. Hence, I combined that and that term, and I got 2 sine squared of x. Now, at this point, I can factor out a 2 sine of x, like that. And again, that's going to mean that sine of x is equal to 0, or sine of x is equal to negative 1. Okay, so we know the solutions to those. This is 0 or pi, and this is 3 pi over 2. Okay, so now what we need to do is to make sure we check, because we squared, we want to check for extraneous solutions. So if I plug in 0, I get secant of 0 is 1, tangent of 0 is 0, so 0 works. If I plug in pi, I get secant of pi is negative 1, tangent of pi is 0, so this one does not work. And 3 pi over 2 is not even in the domain, right? Because secant of 3 pi over 2 is undefined. So that one's out as well. So our only answer here is x is equal to 0. Okay? and there's a graph. Let me get rid of that. And you guys can see that there's nothing here, and that the only solution is going to be at x equals 0. Okay? Let's go on to another one. Now let's look at a multiple angle one. Alright, this one's a little bit different because we have sine of 2x. And a couple things are going to happen here. We still want to think about using arc sine here to get rid of the sine function, which is fine, but we also have to make use of the fact that the period here is equal to just pi. Remember, the period here is going to be equal to 2 pi divided by 2, which is simply equal to pi. Okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the arc sine of both sides, and I'm going to get the arc sine, I'm going to get 2x is equal to 4 pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3, because what I'm thinking about is when is sine of 2x, or when is sine of x equal to negative root 3 over 2. We know that that's true. This is negative root 3. That's true at 4 pi over 3, right there, and 5 pi over 3. Okay, but I don't have x anymore. I have 2x. So whenever 2x is equal to 4 pi over 3, or whenever 2x is equal to 5 pi over 3, then I'm going to satisfy that equation. And so now I can divide both sides by 2, and I can get x is equal to 2 pi over 3, or x is equal to 5 pi over 6. Okay? So those two are going to give me solutions to the above equation. But remember, sine is a periodic function. And so what I want to do is to find out all the solutions, I have to add n pi. Not 2 pi anymore, just n pi, because the period of this function is simply pi now. Okay? And so my solutions are going to be 2 pi over 3 plus n pi and 5 pi over 6 plus n pi. Okay? And that line right there is negative root 3 over 2 equals y. And these are the intersection points, and those are the solutions, okay, at those x values. Let's use a calculator to solve the following equations on 0 to 2 pi. And so here we have 4 cosine squared x minus 4x minus 4 cosine x minus 1. In order to solve that, let's go to the calculator program here. And the key is to put in that put that entire equation in. We want to set the equation equal to 0 and then find the zeros using the find zero program on the calculator to get that done. And now the key is to make sure you're careful with your parentheses. So here in y1 I've put in cosine of x quantity squared, so I'm squaring the cosine function, minus cosine x minus 1. If you set your window to go from 0 to 2 pi, and remember that's what I'm asked to solve on, 0 to 2 pi, make your y min and y max negative 7 and 7, you'll get a graph that looks like that. Okay, let me put on a large screen. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to find those zeros. Those zeros are going to occur here and here. And again, just a refresher on how to use the calculator, second calc, number 2 is going to find my 0. Okay, now in order to do that, I got to go to a point to the left of that 0. And in this case I want to make sure that it's a negative value, because I got to be to the left of it. I hit enter. Go to the right of it, hit enter. And then my guess, I hit enter again, and I get 1.779 and my y value is 0. So that's that 0 right there. To find the other one, I'll do the same process. 2. Again, I got to go to the left of that point, and this time it needs to be a positive value. Okay, because I got to be a little bit positive. In order for this program to work, I have to have a change of sign. So I'm going to go a little bit to the left, which is going to give me a positive value. Enter. Go to the other side of the 0 where it's negative. Enter. Enter. And there is my other 0, 4.5037. Okay? And so there's the graph that we just looked at, and those were the zeros. Okay? Here's another one. This one you could potentially put in. There's no cotangent button there, so we'll simplify it, or you could just use this as 1 over tangent. What I would do is I would simplify a little bit, bring the 3 over, right, because if we're going to use the 0 function, we have to have it equal to 0. I would put cotangent as cosine over sine, and that's why I have this right here. It's cosine squared and there's sine. This part right there is my cosine times cotangent. Okay. Again, if you look at the graph on your calculator, you're going to see you get a 0 there and a 0 there. You guys should pause the video, type this equation into your calculator, and see if you're going to get those correct zeros. Okay, do that now, and so that when you come back, you can see if you got the right answers. And the right answers are 0.524 and 2.618. Okay. Here's some more practice, fellas. Read the rest of this section. Some more problems there. Hopefully you learned how to use your calculator a little bit to do this. You have to be careful with parentheses. That's one of the things I would caution you. But by graphing, you guys can see how many zeros you should expect. Okay, and you should be able to find out whether or not your solutions are the right ones. Okay. Again, do some more practice. Email me if you have some questions, and hopefully I can clear up any problems that you have. All right. Have a good day, fellas.